right? We gotta do something entertainment-wise. If we want to listen to us, we gotta try to do stupid human tricks to get them to pay attention to something important, don't we? Boy, oh boy, do we. Well, now we got the Brits involved again. We got the Brits involved. How'd we do that? Same way as always. We're gonna bully them into it. We've been doing it since World War II. The Brits are dependent on American everything, which is great. Franklin Delano Roosevelt's idea for the destruction of empire. I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, all right? You need to look around you, okay? The British Empire is gone. It's gone. It does not exist. It's done. The Japanese Empire is finished. It's not coming back. There's nothing gonna bring that back. The German Empire, the great and mighty Nazi Empire, where did it go? It's fucking gone. How about the French? After World War II, they even tried to go gain all their shit back, just like the British did. Fuck no. The French got their asses kicked and it's all gone. And then they pulled us into 2 of their fucking wars. Holy shit. And now here we are again, and I'm not sure if you guys have paid attention, but we are literally at war with Russia. Okay? We have American advisors and American officers who are natural-born American citizens who are training troops, recruiting troops, and putting their own goddamn boots on the ground, literally in a war zone, equipped with American-made personnel carriers, American-made surface-to-air rockets, American-made uniforms even. This is not a Cold War situation here. This is an active war. Belarus, man, that's a Russian satellite country. By satellite, those of you who don't understand that terminology, look it up. Basically, Belarus does what Russia wants it to, but Belarus is too small to take the sanctions that Russia can. So they did back off a bit. And of course, we've got active recruiting in all of these nations that are already allied nations, have been since World War II, actively sending troops, actively recruiting troops, actively arming troops, actively training them, and actively leading them in a war zone directly against Russian troops. The United States is at war and has been at war with the Russians since the Battle of Kiev started. When you want to talk about Cold Wars, you know, that's the same thing that we were trying to do during World War II, before the Japanese bombed the shit out of Pearl Harbor. Whew. Hate to have to learn that fucking lesson twice. Then the towers went, didn't they? You wonder what people felt like when they found out Pearl Harbor was bombed. Will you remember 9/11? A lot of you don't. By the way, Brittany Griner and I both share the same birthday. I am literally 10 years to the day older than she is. I was born October 18th, 1980 in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. She was born October 18th, 1990. I don't know where the fuck she was born. With everything that the United States, its citizens, its people, its government officials, its law enforcement, with everything that they have done to me, yeah, I'm not on their side. I declared war against the United States of America just to prove a fucking point. I did so formally. Now, how odd is that? Did the Japanese formally declare war on the United States? No. No. They ambushed us. I say us as if any of us were alive when that happened. There are people who are still alive when that happened, but that didn't happen to all of us. That happened to those people back then. We ain't learning our lessons. We got the history to learn from it, and we're making sure that people don't. That doesn't make any fucking sense. We say those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it, and that's absolutely true. But those who do know their history are also doomed to repeat it. Because human nature doesn't change. When people don't care, they don't care. They're not going to get the education to have the foresight. And of course, when you're able to see it happen before it happens, they want to either blame you for it happening. Oh, it's because you was thinking that negative vibes and whatnot, man. So it's your fault it happened. You put it out there to the universe, and that's what the universe gives us. It's your fault for being a negative ninny. That's right, I'm badly quoting a bad character who is funny as fuck from Kelly's Heroes. It's a great movie. Just a movie. You with your negative ways, man. With your negative ways. I'm trying to make light of a very serious situation that I know I shouldn't be making light of. But I'm hoping that it gets somebody to fucking listen. Holy hell. Oh, there they are. There are just too many goddamn bodies here in the United States unaccounted for. There's just too many of my loved ones still missing. There's people like David and Katie Saltzman from Beaverton, Oregon, who are still missing. There's a lady who's gonna help me make a police report and get them found. This lady had, and see, here's the thing, is that the lady is more worried about David and Katie's safety than about the vehicle or the expenses, okay? So this isn't about a woman trying to harm somebody or get back at somebody who screwed them over. And yes, David and Katie screwed them over, just not intentionally. Or we hope not intentionally. But their safety is important. And with all things considered, and with what this lady was indicating to me she didn't think there was a message that she finally did get from David Saltzman, but she has indicated to me that she doesn't believe it's authentic. She doesn't believe it's from him. And I'm not going to tell her reasons for that. She can explain that as well. We can make the police reports together. I am in Oregon, so I am here in the state. I can make the report. I don't know. Well, I don't have the money to live on for the month. But here's the thing is that David and Katie Saltzman and their children are more important than any of this bullshit. And finding them is absolutely something that needs to be happening. I am fucking livid. Here I am doing everything that I can to try to maintain and keep my oath. And you know what? I don't remember any part of that oath stating that I would ever kill anybody. I do remember that oath having a little tiny part of it stating that I would defend this country against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. I'm not willing to point a gun at another human being. But if Americans rose up, if they rose up against the United States government, well, I would be willing to utilize a BB rifle. I'd be willing to use that as a last resort because it's far less likely to kill somebody. It's just going to piss them off. And that gives some Americans the opportunity to shoot back. Some real Americans. What do they call that in South Park? Operation Hide Behind Darky or something like that. Well, I guess I'm the darky. I'd be willing to get shot. I'm just not willing to shoot anybody. Does that make sense? I know some of y'all think that's absolutely ludicrous a prospect. I mean, especially people from Texas. They're like, oh my God, dude, like you wouldn't shoot back? Well, not necessarily. If people are shooting at me, why would I want to shoot back at them? I don't want to fucking be here. Y'all are shitty to each other and make excuses to fucking shit all over each other. As long as they're only shooting at me, no problem. I just hope they get it over quickly. I don't want to see anybody else die. I'd rather be the first one to go. If the Jews are getting thrown in the ovens, I want to be the first one in the oven, not the last one. What makes you think I want to see any more of that shit? And now that you guys are just starting to experience seeing those things, seeing the atrocities that I grew up with, now you guys are pissed off. Now the cops are making every excuse not to do their jobs because you guys want to defund them. They haven't been defunded, first of all. They haven't been. If they can still pay their officers, they're still getting paid to do a job, they need to do that fucking job. Now we got Great Britain stuck in all this. That's probably the most fun part of this, isn't it? Great Britain, since losing their entire fucking empire, are nearly entirely dependent upon the United States and Russia. Without Russia alleviating mainland Europe can't send anything across the channel to England. And England keeps fucking around with Scotland's oil, pretending it's there and then it's not. It's a magic trick. Oh, Scotland doesn't have enough oil to go on its own. So they have to stay with England for now. Oh wow, we magically just realized we have trillions and trillions of tons of fucking reserves just sitting under the earth, huh? Right after they had that vote. Like, holy shit, that's like magic. Great Britain has fallen so much that even the British on their own fucking island don't want to be British anymore. They have to lie to them and manipulate them in order to get them to stay with England. England, by the way, it's not the UK, it's not the United Kingdom, it's England. The Scottish don't want to be fucking British. They just don't want to fucking starve to death. So everything was done to try to make them believe that if they went off on their own, they would fucking starve to death. And no, they won't. Also, trying to go through Scotland to fuck somebody up would be about like, well, it'd be about like going to the Crow Reservation. Little Bighorn River, I've been there. On this channel, I reported on the missing women of Hardin, Montana, almost 2 years before they released that it was the epicenter of missing and murdered Native American women. Most of them killed exactly how I said that they were killed. Well, close. I thought Lame Deer was to the west, not to the east. There's even a couple of folks there who have maps of where the bodies were found, who they were, and yeah, it's a whole bunch of red fucking dots all over the map, but there's a whole bunch of them concentrated in that area where they were found. And then there's the map of where they went missing from. Like, fucking, holy shit. It's phenomenal. But I also paid attention while I was up there. I paid attention to the terrain. You know, there's been a lot of times where I had to pull over on the side of the road. Many, many times. My very first trip where I got stuck on the Little Bighorn River was going to see Lana and Amanda Engeline in Bozeman, Montana. That would have been like the year they moved there, the year after, something like that. No, I went to go visit them in Rapid City, that's right. I went to visit them in Rapid City, and I got stuck on the Little Bighorn River. And then I got stuck at Wounded Knee on the way back, I believe. And then I went to visit them again in Montana when they moved there, and Miss Jerry had moved there by that point. And I got stuck at the Little Bighorn River again. That terrain is made for infantry. I'm not sure if anybody knows that. You could make do with cavalry, but infantry has every fucking advantage in that terrain. Similar to northern Italy, every fucking advantage. I mean, you can just basically cop a squat, and anything that tries to come at you has to go through an ungodly fucking minefield of brambles and fucking bullshit. It'd be like trying to fight a guerrilla war here. Holy fuck, the moment somebody start trying to come in through the mountains after you, they'd realize that they have lashed and gashed themselves to fucking pieces on all the thorny bushes that are in the area. Plenty of places to hide, plenty of foliage, so if there's a battle during the day, the foliage is actually going to help to hide your muzzle flash. When it's wet like this, that makes everything shiny, which makes it even more difficult to find you in your camouflage. You know how stuff looks when it's wet. But for me, if there's a war, I'm going to tell you first and foremost, all right, I chose my city on my Facebook profile, although I am obviously not in Moscow, Russia. And I have never been to Moscow, Russia. I see Russia fighting more for American rights than Americans are. I see the British fighting more for American rights than Americans are. I see Ukrainians fighting more for American rights than Americans are. And I see our citizens, our tax dollars, our defense budget, our military equipment. I see it going over to Europe and then getting involved in another goddamn war with an enemy that decided they didn't want to be our enemy years ago. They fucking capitulated. They gave up. They were done. But we couldn't let them be done. There's a movie, and I want you guys to keep this in mind. The Canadians in warfare are fucking ruthless. Okay? Their history in warfare is don't fuck with the Canadians. If you see a Canadian, you run. Or you give up right this fucking moment. They're still Canadians. They'll let you surrender. America was not known for letting their enemy surrender in World War II or World War I, nor were the Brits or the Germans. No, the most feared troops weren't the SS, and it wasn't Stalin's monster brigades. I think that's what the translation means. I tried looking it up because the word is Russian, and I don't read Russian or speak Russian or type Russian, so I tried to phonically, what does it mean? Yeah, no, the most feared troops in World War I and World War II, it wasn't the Turkish, it wasn't the Australians, it wasn't the New Zealanders, it wasn't the Americans, it wasn't the Brazilians. It was the fucking Canadians. Don't fuck with Canada. Who won the War of 1812? Canada. I mean, technically, America won the war because it was against Great Britain, but Canada fucking won. Canadian troops are par excellence, bar none. And they'll let you give up. They're not out there killing you because they want to kill you. They're out there shooting at you for a principle. What principles do you guys really stand for here in the United States? What principles do you really stand for in Great Britain anymore? I see how you treat your homeless. I see how you create addicts and addictions. I see how it starts with people here. 70% of opiates in the world, 70% are distributed to American population. 70% of them. We pill the hell out of everything. You're depressed because your child was stillborn? Here's some pills. You're sad because your mom died? Here's some pills. We got pills so that you can suppress emotions that you're supposed to have. But then they wear off and you realize, holy shit, I haven't been allowed to grieve. I haven't been able to comprehend what's going on around me. But that's your solution for everything, isn't it? A lot of times you've got a kid who's acting out. Why is he acting out? He's being abused at home. But you don't want to hear that. What you want is for the parents to go take him in and have the doctor give him Ritalin. And by the way, the schools who are telling you this aren't allowed to tell you to do that. They're breaking the law when they tell you to do that. Anytime you go to one of these places, you do need to record it for your safety and for the safety of your children. Anytime that it comes to an at-risk adult, that's about the same thing. That's the way the courts and the police and many of the public look at it, except that these are big tantrum-throwing children with anger management issues. What they've got in reality is an issue with getting you guys to listen. What the fuck? Unless they scream at the top of their lungs and act a damn fool, as you call it. They shouldn't have to do that. There are special rights. There really are, for disabled people. It is against the law to discriminate against somebody for their religion. It is against the law to discriminate against somebody for their gender. Against the law for someone to be discriminated against for their sexual orientation. It's against the law to discriminate against somebody because of their age or their gender. And I'll probably say gender more than once. But we're not following our laws here. We're dismantling everything that makes it so we can defend ourselves and turning a blind eye to all the reasons that that's a bad idea. When I say reasons, I don't mean just the idea that it could happen. I mean, these things actually are happening. With that Griner lady, we traded her for what? If that guy is as bad as they want to say that he is, then we just put a whole lot of people's lives at risk. Now, if that Marine was a spy, we probably would have traded him already. But at the same time, according to international law, he is guilty of being a spy. He's got... we could get into that at a later date, and we probably will, because I am fascinated by this shit. I mean, according to international law, that dude's a spy. He literally is. He was born in Canada, so don't fuck with him. But by law, yeah, they do have every right to detain him, and they have actually the right to detain him indefinitely. The fact that they only gave him 16 years is pretty nice of them. What more can I say about that? I mean, yeah, it sucks, but there's a reason that we have those international laws, and we use them as the United States all the time. We got plenty of Russians out here that were arrested for no other reason than they have, uh, what do you call that, citizenship in 4 or more countries. I say or more because some of them have citizenship in a lot of countries. I mean, the Russians, they tried to really feed their boys out. Somebody was telling me that's a spy network thing, but I don't fucking know. I wasn't in the CIA. I wasn't in the FBI. I was never in the military. I was in the delayed entry program. I have 2 of these, by the way. That's what I keep looking for. This one says 100%, and it's always fucking on. It annoys the shit out of me. But also, it won't charge my phone. I have another one that I've been searching for and haven't been able to locate. And my phone is telling me it's about to die. Now, with us being at war, if that guy was a spy, we would have traded for him. And if he was a useful spy, we would have traded for him. The thing is, he was just a citizen who got busted. Now, he might be a spy. I'm not going to pretend that there's no possibility, because, I mean, legally he is. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And according to Russian law, American law, and international law, yeah, he is a spy. Even if he didn't know nothing, collecting information. According to the law, that, of course, Russia and America also agreed to, and do implement in both countries, yes, that man is a spy. And now that teacher that I haven't brought up yet, I do want to make sure that I bring him up. All right, yes, he's an educator. Yes, sure, you know, he's white and he's a male and I should stick up for him, but why would I? That's not equal, is it? No, that's fucking sexist and racist too. If they traded for her, they should have traded for him too. Since they didn't trade for him, they shouldn't have traded for her. A lot of people tell me that I deserve everything that happened to me because I broke the law. No, I was forced to break the law. There's a big difference there. There's a big difference. I was forced to break the law to try to save lives, and you get to see that there's more than one person who's dead because I wasn't heard. So maybe, I don't know, the United States should listen to we the people. They, the fucking idiots. I mean, that's the only way I can describe our fucking government right now. It's like the majority of that 70% of opiates I was telling you about. 70% of the opiates in the world get consumed by Americans, and it's almost like the people running our country are the ones consuming, like, probably 70% of that. I mean, it's insane how incredibly dumb we have this stuff. I mean, not just Trump, also Pelosi. I mean, holy hell. Americans are master propagandists. That was important for the Industrial Revolution here. It was important for the American Industrial Revolution because we were the ones who really mastered the art of mass production and interchangeable technology. When we mass produce something, we don't fuck around. Well, at least that's the way it was back then. Now we borrow a lot of the tips and tricks of the trade that are used in other countries to reduce production, but it reduces quality. And we want to charge the same prices for stuff that we're not producing the way that we did. If you find a drill from 1946 or from 1942 or from 1938, chances are pretty good that you can disassemble it and put it back together if it doesn't work, and make it work. Just clean it and put it back together. Good luck with doing that with a Black & Decker. We produce rubbish. And then, of course, we want to bully the British into taking our rubbish. And they don't want our fucking rubbish. Most of Europe doesn't want our fucking rubbish. Most of Europe still owes us for the Lend-Lease. Russia still owes us for the Lend-Lease. Australia still owes us for the Lend-Lease. Of course, we owe everybody as well. We still owe China from World War II. Isn't that nuts? You'd think China would owe us. Well, we didn't exactly get what we wanted, although we made agreements with China. Well, the China that we made the agreements with is not the China that won, as we all well know. So although the Lend-Lease and all of that with China was a great and wonderful proposition, in the end, it didn't make any fucking difference. They weren't going to pay up. They lost, and they fucking died. Kind of like in World War I with Tsar Nicholas and all them. You know, we had a war on two fronts, and Germany could have been actually defeated in battle. Actually outright defeated in battle. Their capital actually taken over, like what eventually happened in World War II. They needed to be dominated so they wouldn't try dominating again. At this point, with as cruel as the United States is to its own citizens, to its own allies, I don't understand how the rest of the world can turn a blind eye to this. Oh yeah, it's called propaganda. It's cool, it's hip, it's all the rave, so scrape your face with Burma Shave. What do we see on our commercials? We either try to sell the idea of sex, the idea of love. Well, that's pretty much it. You can try to sell anything with that. There's also some stuff that, because of how people basically try to shove these medications on us for just about everything in advertising, we had to make laws about it saying, hey, you can't do that. You can't misrepresent your sleeping meds by putting hot women on there, all scantily clad. That's not appropriate for drugs and alcohol. So, of course, we did implement those laws. They are on the books. I suppose that's a good thing, depending on how you look at it. Is it followed? Not necessarily, and probably not. See, America isn't one of those countries where it's important to actually follow the law. It's important to be of a social class where you're allowed to break the law, or be good at getting away with it. Be good at manipulating the system, convincing people not to listen to others. Basically, our courts are all backroom courts. Sure, we have the public face of the court that we put on for everybody, But there's also all the backroom stuff that nobody gets access to. They don't get to see, they don't get to hear. And that, in the long run, does make it easy for these folks to victimize the most at-risk people in the country. And then we got this human trafficking, and you know what? I don't apply the same mythology that you guys apply to me to Miss Centoya Brown. Well, you guys tell me that what I've been through could be worse. What I've been going through is long-term abuse. Centoya Brown also went through long-term abuse. I'm not allowed to compare myself because she's a female, so she's allowed to say I was victimized. She's black and a female. Both of those allow her to say, hey, I was victimized, and actually possibly get heard by people who will help. For me, I'm not a pretty white girl. I am too Jewish looking for the KKK to do anything to help me. And I don't like hate groups. Right now, what we're doing is arguing sentiments. We're changing words as if it makes it okay. We'll change the word autistic to mentally ill. And then we'll pretend that mentally ill means schizophrenic. And thereby, you can pretend that somebody who is autistic is schizophrenic. And boom, problem solved. Or you can physically assault somebody and torture them physically. And you call it pain compliance. Hate to have to quote Shakespeare on this, but a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. If you call a rosebud a butthole, it's still going to smell like a rosebud. If you call a butthole a rosebud, it's still going to smell like a butthole. You are what you are, regardless of what you want to throw yourself into. You're a human being first, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexual orientation. You are a human first, regardless of your religion. But you know what? If you're going to segregate yourselves that way, you're screwing all of us. And when you want to pretend that your group is more important than anyone else's, and you even are so desperate to have that narrative sold that you're willing to pretend that these crimes couldn't be happening to the other victims, you're actually actively trying to scare and intimidate other victims who are victims of your very same predators. And you're not supporting those people or those groups because it doesn't fit a false narrative that will allow you an easier victory, but in the long run, it's not an easier victory. It's special rights, and this hurts all of us. Alright, so my vehicle is warmed up a bit. Hopefully this spot here is an okay place to at least try to go to sleep. There ain't no guarantee that that's a happening thing, but at least I can try. The problem is when somebody says they're going to help me and it is an emergency, and they haven't even taken the time to find out why it's an emergency, it is scary. I can't hide people's names. Hiding people's secrets has gotten a lot of people killed. But it's been them hiding those things. It's them hiding the fact that I went to them for help repeatedly. And they blew me off. Why don't they come forward? Well, it's because they blew me off. A lot of these folks, they want to do everything they can not to do any of that family or friend shit that you're supposed to do when an at-risk adult comes to you because they're being abused. You tell them it's not your job, or you tell them you don't know what to do, or you tell them about people threatening your friends and family because you spoke up without knowing what was going on. There are things I was accused of that I absolutely did. I'm going to tell you that, because I've already said that and admitted that. There's also things that I didn't do that I had to plead guilty to in order to get evidence that I needed in order to turn in sexual predators and a lot of people who had committed crimes against me, and also a lot of people who had committed crimes against children. I even had those children's names and the messages themselves. And in some of those cases and situations, I still do. The problem is, when you're a homeless person, nobody gives a shit. They're not going to help you turn it. The United States has been at war with the poor in this country for the entirety of my life. We talk about Germany with their concentration camps and forced labor camps, and here in the United States, that is what being poor is. But we've got an overabundance of pretty shit, don't we? When we talk about all of the free welfare and how all these other countries that fell, it's because they gave free welfare to the people. No. All of those nations, you look at their history, their nations fell because they were selfish bastards. They were run by greedy people who thought that they were fucking gods, for Christ's sake. Yeah, these people are obviously not right in the fucking head. They thought they were gods. You guys are funny, though. It's a funny rendition of history that you play on. The PG version. Oh yeah, we're going to pretend that Sir Francis Drake was not a nasty, nasty son of a bitch. And we're going to pretend that Queen Elizabeth I was a Vestal Virgin. Yep. Yup. Must be true they said it. Yup. God ordained it. Yup. God wills it. Yup. Woohoo! Go Broncos. Just so you know, the very last part of that, the Go Broncos, the Denver Broncos are the local football team in Colorado, and I don't give two shits about the Denver Broncos. But a common saying in Colorado, if something goes good, even if it's not Broncos related, like say you've been hoping that your daughter will find a boyfriend, get engaged, get married, and move out of the fucking house, and you find out that she just got her first boyfriend, you're like, woohoo, Broncos! Or you're scratching a lottery ticket, and you just scratched off a $10 winner off of a $2 ticket. Woohoo, go Broncos! Just completely unrelated to whatever the fuck happened, but it's a point of excitement, and in Colorado it's actually a saying. A common one in common usage. I say that in a lot of the places I go, and then I stop myself. Like here, we're closer to Washington State. So whenever I stop and say, woohoo, go Broncos about something, I have to stop myself and correct myself. I mean, woohoo, Seattle Super Sea Chickens. And do you know why I say Seattle Super Sea Chickens instead of Broncos, not just because we're in the local area, but also because I don't give two fucks about baseball. Who wins the Stanley Cup is not my concern. All right. So now that we've established that I don't give a fuck about sports, let's take a look at a lot of my heroes like Colin Kaepernick. And a lot of the villains that I'm not real fond of, like Michael Vick. Why is it that Colin Kaepernick is the same reason that, despite the fact that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was not the effective person we pretend that he is my favorite hero of the 20th century. And the reason that he's bar none, he's my very favorite person of the 20th century. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., because I'm an idealist and I want to believe that we can do things peacefully. Well, the problem is that there are people who are not willing to look at any other option. People like Bacon aren't willing to look at any other option except murdering people and beating people up. People like Shauna Sinclair are not going to come up with any ideas other than assaulting people, beating them up, or fucking killing them. Or, of course, in her case, having her cousins do it. Now, as far as the poor know that they can't get after the rich. There's a movie about that that's supposed to be set in the future, and I think it was supposed to be set in 2010, and it was made in like the 1980s. But the whole idea is that there's the upper city and the lower city. And the upper city is rich people and their servants, and the lower city is everyone else. And everything that belongs to everyone else is highly regulated by the few places that were not destroyed by the corporations, who are the ones who own everything nice. So the corporations destroyed, and this takes place in the United States, of course. The corporations destroyed the United States, and basically you've got checkpoints all over the place, and you've got rich people who are trying to snatch poor people's bodies. It was a bizarre movie, yes, I'll admit that. But the whole separation of rich and poor is very much what I'm seeing now. I'm seeing how none of this stuff, economic or otherwise, actually affects these rich people. If a rich person loses half of their accumulated wealth, they are still too rich to spend it in their lifetimes. I mean, there's got to be a way that they can spend it all in their lifetimes. I suppose if you've got billions of dollars, you could or trillions of dollars, you could probably tip somebody a couple of $1 billion. If you're a trillionaire, you could probably, well, we do have trillionaires nowadays, don't we? See, I was going to say that's a myth, but then I remembered we don't know how rich Putin is. I don't like Russia. I don't like Canada. I don't like the United States. I really don't like any government that does not hold itself accountable to the people. Of the people, by the people, for the people. Democracy. Demokratia. People power. Now, the hallmark of a democracy is supposedly an educated populace. But you're not educated. The British know more about the people in power in the United States than the American people do. British school children know more of the individual names in power in the United States than most adult American citizens do. So before you guys go following America into the great mighty abyss, I want you to stop and keep in mind that at this current point in time, they are at war against the poor. That is what they do. That is who they are exploiting. And they are pulling the wool all over all of your eyes. If there is a direct armed conflict between the United States and Russia on American soil, well, then I'm going to defend my loved ones. However, I am not going to pick up a rifle and go to another country and shoot at people for this government. And if Russia comes over here and invades American soil, chances are probably pretty fucking good that they're after our government for their decisions and for the stupidity of all of the soldiers who followed them there. If the Russians wanted to call an international tribunal against the United States and have many of our government officials tried as war criminals, much like we did at Nuremberg. But one thing that we don't highly advertise that was a little bit more advertised in the 80s and the 90s is it wasn't just the upper tier Nazis that we were after. We also went after, well, Israel even went after some of the guards. These are just foot soldiers. These aren't the officers in charge. These are just brutal guards. Wanted and tried and executed for war crimes in Israel. I'm mortified by what I see. But even worse, by what I live through and by what I experience as a human being in this country. If Russia invaded us, I would have to consider it a humanitarian effort. And I would, instead of picking up a rifle and shooting at them, well, I'd rather pick up a med kit and keep them alive. But I'm not nationalistic. I like the Constitution, not the government. The government don't follow the Constitution. Despite that, if we had American soldiers and Russian soldiers both injured on a battlefield, I also would not be nationalistic about who I helped. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper, and no victim left behind. Not even Russians. Not even Americans. Not even British. Not even French. Not even Mexican. Not even Canadian. Not here, not now. Not ever.